Hello everybody, and welcome back to Hebrew Crash Course. It is great to see you here, and well, let's get right to it, okay? First of all, let me just ask real quickly, how'd it go? Anybody have any glaring questions, problems, concerns, issues? You saw my email, I'm hoping, that I sent today, which I suggested that you look through the Chazarah. Yes, Scott.
All right.
Tell me what page you're
What
on.
kept popping up was if you have a letter with a vowel under it,
Yes.
followed by a silent letter with the same vowel under it, is it just a continuation, or do you make it like a new syllable?
Right. If there is a silent letter under which there's the two vertical dots that makes no sound.
No, I'm talking about it's the same vowel as the preceding.
Okay, so let's what's that?
Right.
Okay, right, that, exactly, okay, good. So, okay, can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's ba, right?
Right.
Okay, and if there's an aleph here, which is silent,
Right.
then that's ba,
Right.
right? But if there is that vowel, or a T-shaped vowel, that makes an ah sound, then it's ba, ah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's imagine that this is the number one, right? And then you add something that doesn't make any sound, right? So then 1 plus 0, 1. But if you add something that makes a sound, then it's going to be more than just that. Does that make sense? That make sense, everybody? Hi. Oh, did you guys get booklets?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we printed one. Yes.
Did you get the official booklet? You got the one I passed out, right? So these are now your official booklets.
Oh, thank you.
You have official booklets.
Okay.
Does everybody else have a booklet or access to the text, whatever? Okay, good. All right, so here's what I want. Oh, yes, Joy.
Yeah, I have a question. Sometimes the D, has a little dot inside it.
Yes, thank you very much. So, the important thing I want you to focus on is that unless you're talking about a bet, a cough, or a pen. I know that we haven't learned all these letters yet, but those are the only three letters that if there's no dot, that change the sound.
It's a different character.
Right? The dot will show up in other letters. It'll show up in a yod, it'll show up in a dalet, it'll show up in different letters. And it's really about emphasis, but don't worry about it. The only three that you need to worry about, and I'm going to put them out to you on the, everyone create that letter sheet out. It's like the second or third page in the booklet. Is the top row, the two middle ones, right? Everyone see that? Top row, two middle ones, bet and vet. The fifth row, the first two on the right, right? We're always going from right to left. Kaf, kaf. And then below that, on line 6, pei, fei. Those are the only three letters that you need to focus on, knowing that the sound changes if there's a dot or there isn't a dot. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So we'll get more into it, but Joy, great question. All right, let's do the Chazarah. Chazarah means review, and it's on page 19. Okay? Hello, welcome. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna read, and I invite you to read with me, except for when I tell you not to, and then just you'll repeat back to me. Okay? All right. So we're on line 1, page 19. Everyone right there? And remember, your handy index finger, pointer finger rather, on the page. Make sure you're always, if you don't see it, Don't say it. You gotta see what you're saying. All right. So the first one, number 1, is me.
Me.
Right. That's the mem, that mound, right? The mountain-shaped letter with the dot underneath it, making the long E sound. Does everyone understand, by the way, basic phonetic terms? When I say long E, I mean it makes a long E sound, like P, li, me, fi, right? It's confusing because when you start looking at transliteration, where the Hebrew is written out in English letters, the letter I, in Hebrew transliteration generally stands for the long E. And it's, yeah, exactly, right? So because there is no I, but there is an I sound, but that's spelled out transliteratively with an AY. So it gets, it can get complicated. But we're learning Hebrew, not transliteration. So, moving on. All right, so line 1 is me. All right, line 2. Actually, let me read. I'll read a couple words at a time, and then you follow, you join me. So number 2, me, Rabbi. Everybody.
Me,
Rabbi.
Abba, Rabbi.
Abba, Rabbi.
Who's my rabbi? My dad is my rabbi. Apparently my children wrote this. Okay. Me, ba, ba'erev.
Me, ba, ba'erev.
Okay. So, as you're reading this, I want you to stop me or raise your hand and tell me the simplest, anything. Stop me if that isn't making perfect sense to you. Okay? Abba, ba, ba'erev. Together. Abba, ba, ba'erev. Okay, so that ayin, this letter, remember there's those two silent letters, right? There's the aleph, right? And then, actually, let me use the black, hang on. And then there's the ayin, okay? Both those letters are silent. So whatever sound of vowel is underneath that letter, that's the sound, that's how you read it. So in this case, right, the 3 triangle dots, sound. Right? Just like the third baseman, Alex Bregman.
That really worked for me all week. It really did. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, number 3, mi, more. Together.
Me, more.
Hadod, more.
Hadod, more.
And what that means, I'm going to tell you what it means just because I think it's important to remind us all that it's real language, but don't feel stressed out about needing to or thinking you should understand this or not, okay? So, mi, more means is who's the teacher? Hadod, more. My uncle is the teacher, or that could be cousin, which is...
The uncle.
Huh?
The uncle.
Hadod, more, yeah, but you wouldn't say the uncle. It's the definite article. You usually have a particular uncle, but anyway, that's a whole other thing.
But wouldn't it, I thought, okay.
Ha
I
is
thought
that.
there's a new-
It's the definite
a
article.
different ending if it's mine.
That's E, do, D. That would be do, D. Then you wouldn't say do, D. Let's leave that alone. I
Okay.
cannot go there right
That's
now.
a grammar
Okay.
thing. All right.
Number 3, hadod more. The third and fourth words together.
Hadod, more.
Okay, we just did. Mi more. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. No, God, I put my glasses on so I can actually see. Mi, thank you very much. What is it, Jody?
Me, more.
Mi mora, right? So the feminine ending, mora is feminine teacher. I apologize. I had to put my glasses on so that I could actually see the distinction. So mi mora.
Me, more.
Hadoda mora.
Hadod,
Okay. All right. Line number 4. Line 4. Ma.
Ma.
Ma Abba. Abba Rabbi. Ma Hadod. Hadod more. Number 6. Ma Hadoda. Hadoda Mora. So remember, there's no present tense to be verb in Hebrew. So it's not, what that translates is what is my aunt? Or what is the aunt, basically? Meaning, what does she do for a living? Right? Hadoda mora. My aunt is a teacher. Okay? But there's no is. It's just assumed.
So,
Yeah.
mora is feminine?
Mora is feminine. Moret is masculine.
Had it backwards.
Right. But then dod, it's not dodeh and doda. In this case, it's dod and doda. Right? But that's where it can get confusing, and it doesn't matter. What I want you to focus on is being able to read. Okay. All right. Number 7. Oh, were you raising your hand, Zach?
Yeah, I apologize if we.
No,
covered
no,
this
no,
last time.
don't apologize.
It's in several lines. I'll just
Yeah.
point to line 1 because it's just.
Yeah.
obvious. That symbol that follows the M, that's kind of upward, like an apostrophe.
Yes. So first of all, look back at. Let's see. It's a lesson. If somebody finds it, tell me before I find it. It's lesson 5. Look back at lesson 5, page 11. Right? That's the hook. It's called a yud. The letter is called a yud, but it operates very similarly to a Y. So in the same way we say A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y, right? Where the Y, sometimes Y is the beginning of a word, right? Makes the sound Y for yes. But my silly example of H-A-P-P-Y, we don't read it as hapya, right? It's happy, the Y, right? So the yud stands, it really operates almost exactly the same way.
Gotcha.
Okay? So, the thing that's important to recognize for other words is that if that yud wasn't there, you'd still read that me.
Right, because it's the same.
That long E is still E, doesn't change because of the yud at the end.
Gotcha.
Okay? Okay. All right, number 7. Ba. Ba'a. Ba'im. Abba. Ba. Ima. Ba'a. So that is the feminine ending. Ima is mom, but ba'a is the feminine ending, is the conjugated verb to come. Third person, well, it's actually all the persons, present tense, right? So, all right, okay. Line 8, the second part. Moreba. Morim ba'im. So that's the plural. Ba'im is the plural. The teachers are coming, is those last 2 words. Line 9. Hadod ba. Hadoda ba'a. Dod ba. Dodim ba'im. Does everyone understand how that word ba'im is working? The aleph, well, yeah, it's the plural, but also the aleph, there's no sound, so where is it getting its sound from? The vowel underneath, exactly, right. That's really, really important. Line, what's that? Your question?
No.
Okay, line 10. Hamore ba. Hamora ba'a. Morim rabim ba'im. Let's try that again. So there's a lot, they're playing with the resh here, right? So morim, rabim, ba'im. Try that. Morim, rabim, ba'im. There are many teachers who are coming. Okay. Line 11. Dodi, more, ivri. Dodi, more, ivri. Okay, now they're throwing in some past tense. I don't know why they are doing this because it only could be confusing, but so Amar is the third person, singular, past tense, male, conjugated version of the word omer, which means to say. So, Hadod Amar, my uncle said, so Hadod Amar, Avraham Av, Ha'am Ha'ivri, which is Abraham is the father of the Jewish people. Line 15, Avraham Av Ha'ivri. Av Ha'ivri. Right. So, here's what I want you to do, and I'm super, super, super serious. I want you to take 2-3 minutes right now and read through these lines yourself. And any one of them that you're stuck on, raise your hand or mark it, and then I'll ask you after the end of like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. But I really want you to, this is important. I could rush through this, we call it a crash course. I could rush through it, but we're at the end of the first section. And so I want you to make sure, not that you've completely memorized every single letter, but that intellectually you understand how this is working. Yeah.
So, on line 11,
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna, I'll just take questions now. Line 11, yeah.
it has, a vet that has 2 dots, like, going, vertically. That's just, vet, right? Or would that be,
Yes. Those 2 dots, the vertical dots, all it means is that it's the sound of the consonant. Right, the vet, so it's a V. Right, doesn't change it. If those 2 dots weren't there, it would still be ivri. Does that make sense? Okay. Others? Questions? You still looking? Still reading through? Okay. Terrific. Yes, Scott.
You know what is throwing me is.
What?
I haven't done this enough to know when I get to a letter if it's ending that consonant or starting a new consonant.
Yes, right. So, how do I? Generally, I want to be careful about this because it's not like a hard and fast rule, but generally, you're at the end of a syllable, at the end of a vocalized letter. Okay? So, do, D, right? It gets complicated later when you're looking at more complicated things with a vav, with the stick, with the two dots underneath it, because sometimes sometimes that's the beginning of a consonant. I mean, beginning of a syllable. Sometimes that's the end of a syllable. But don't worry about that. So like line 2, right? Ra, B, right? It has to be the end. It has to be 2 syllables because it's a full vocalized letter. Does that make sense?
The example I was thinking of is
Yeah.
the last word in 14.
Last one in 14.
I was trying to put 2
Yes.
letters together and 2 letters together, but it's 3 letters in 1 letter.
So technically, because you don't really know yet the rules, it could be ha-i-vri, or it could be ha-ivri,
Oh, all right.
right? Which actually it is ha-ivri. And now I'm going to give you more than you bargained for. That letter of vet, if it doesn't have a dot in it, then it's not going to start a syllable. So it has to be the end of another syllable. If there was a dot in it, then it would necessarily be ha-i-bri. Does that make sense? Kind of? Okay. Other questions? Other specific areas that you don't understand or are having trouble with? Anybody?
So.
Yes,
and-
Eileen.
And I don't know if I missed something, but the same word you're talking about, hobby, free.
Yeah,
So the va has 2 dots vertical under it.
right.
So I'm kind of using that to pause before I say the other re.
You're doing it totally right. Exactly.
Does that 2 dots mean to like pause?
Well,
Not pause, but in my head.
depending on where they fall in the word, those 2 dots could be the end of a syllable or the beginning of a syllable.
Okay.
Okay? But if what I was just saying is that if that vet actually was a bet, if there was a dot in that vet,
Yeah.
then it would have to be the beginning of a syllable, which is a grammar rule that we're too far.
Okay.
We're too far away from that, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you read it as ha-ivri or ha-ivri, either one, terrific.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Others? Any others? Okay, then let's keep going. All right. So I wrote my baseball diamond up here again, especially because the Astros are doing pretty well. If the Astros lost, I don't know what if I still use them. All right.
They take 2 games to finish 1.
They play, really. That's true. That's true. That was not very efficient of them, was it? Yes. Okay. So obviously this only works because this happens to be the names of these individuals who play first, second, and third. But I'm about to teach you guys on lesson 14 the 2 dots side by side. For some reason, these represent a real challenge to people. Remembering A, long A sound, versus A. Okay? So just one mnemonic that I think can work well. I mean, obviously you have to know the names of the players of the Astros, so, but.
Here's another mnemonic for the A.
Oh, yeah.
I just made it up in my head
Yeah.
looking at it. So in A, you have to connect the dots to make the line across. So like when I do letters
Two
for
dots.
kids, and I make that A, I have 2 dots there with the line. I don't know, just thought of that, in case you don't want the baseball.
I have a really complicated one that I think makes perfect sense to me, but everyone else is like, ah. You know a marionette?
Yeah,
So marionette, if you want to make the marionette smile, you got to have 2 strings, right? And pull it like this.
yeah.
But if you want the marionette to go more like an then it's, yeah, see, it's too complicated. All right, anyway. So Yuli Guriel, so I put the line under the long E sound. He plays first base, 1 dot, long E sound. Jose Altuve plays second base, 2 dots, A, long A sound. Alex Bregman, sound, third base. All right, so whatever works for you, that's, fine. It doesn't have to be the baseball terminology. All right, but so this is the A as in snake. And Zach, just like you were asking before, that yud there, that hook there, doesn't change the sound it makes, okay? So let's read these together. I think you guys have this down decently well. So line 1, we're gonna read together, 1, 2, 3. A, A, day, ray, re. Okay, does everyone see the difference between the daled and the resh? The daled has the dent in it. The resh has the roundedness on the right. So the daled makes a d, the resh makes a r. Okay, let's go on to number 2, starting with m, right? May, me, may, a, d. So not only do we have an ayin with the long A vowel underneath it, that 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th one in that line, that's A. But then if you have an aleph, which is also silent, 2 dots underneath, followed by yud, is also A. Right, okay. Line 3. Bay, they, hey, a, e, me. So there's a dot in that mem. Don't let that scare you. The mem can't change its sound. It's going to be m no matter what, whether there's a dot in it or not. Okay, line 4. Now I want to remind you, line 4 starts with the dot over the sort of the head of the dot. Now remember, we learned this before. That letter's the vav. Okay? Or like, you could think of it like a hockey stick. Okay? The vav, if it has a dot above it, think of it like the profile of a person. Right? It goes over their head. It makes an O sound. But, we're not going to do this right now, but if it's a dot in the middle, think about the person on the side, ooh, right? Ooh, okay? And if it doesn't have a dot, what sound does a vav make? V, right, V. Sometimes the vav disappears in time. Sometimes the vav has a dot above it, but it disappears, the vav. And that's when you get this. Daled with an O above it. So that would be pronounced how? Do. Okay, so let's start with line 4 together. Do, da, day, da, D. That's a long E sound, okay? All right, now repeat after me. We have a little bit more of like Hebrew reading. Line 5. Maher. Now, I have to do what?
What does that mean?
It means quick. So, I have to do my little camp shtick. How's it go? It goes, quick, my hair's on fire. Quick, my hair's on fire.
Okay.
There's another one, the word mazleg in Hebrew means fork. And at camp, you do silly, stupid things. So you pretend that there's a fork. Quick! There's a fork in Ma's leg. There's a fork in Ma's leg. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, moving forward. That's not going to be on the test. All right. Number 6. Ha'av omer. A ha'em. Which is dad says, where's mom? Line 7. Ima bo'i maher. Mommy, come quickly, is what it says. Line 8. Hador omer. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, see, I even mistaken. Hadod omer. A hadoda. Okay, so one thing that you should notice is, well, tell me, what's challenging about that word, the second word I read, omer?
Yeah, because the A doesn't sound like an A would be.
Exactly. When you put the resh there, it kind of sounds like an eh sound, but it's just the conjugation. Don't worry about it. You say omer, like you're from the south, or omer. It doesn't matter. You'll get it right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there really going to be a test?
No. Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
You said it's not going to be a test.
There is not. The test is, did you show up again? Right? That's the test. All right. So therefore, you passed. Line 11. More. Bo'i. Maher. Line 12. Maher. 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 My hair's on fire! Quick! All right. Ha-bo-re. Okay, so this is a word that in the Jewish world, the word bore we say all the time. So we have a blessing that says, Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, God, Eloheinu melech haolam, our God, God of the King of the world. And then we'll say, Borei Peri Hagafen, which means the creator of the fruit of the vine. Or we'll say, Borei Peri Ha'etz, creator of the fruit of the tree. Or we'll say lots of different kinds of Borei. And Borei is the same word, by the way. Same root of the word. Borei. As the first word of the entire Torah, which is Bereshit. Bereshit is the first word of the Torah, which means in the beginning. So the bet and the resh and the aleph, they show up in that word. But actually, I'm beginning to see glazed eyes, so let's not worry about that. All right, line 14. Borei or. Borei or. Does everyone understand the word or? How that works? The aleph is silent, followed by the vav with the dot over its head, making an O sound, followed by the resh. Okay. Borei ha'adam. And then a little bit of Hebrew, just for your own edification. So, what's the first man's name? Adam, right? But Adam doesn't actually show up until the second story of creation. There's actually two stories of creation of human beings. The first is not Adam, technically. It's Adam. Because Adam is Hebrew for what comes from the earth. Adamah. Adamah is earth. So Adam isn't male at the beginning. Adam is just simply human being who was formed from the earth. I got more of that for you, where that comes from. Okay, line 16. Borei het harim. Okay, we're going to keep on moving forward. I, again, reiterate, stop me if you need to ask me a question, if you're not following. Okay, We are now moving on to another letter which you will see very often. And that is called a lamed. Right. So one way of remembering the lamed, that it's an L sound, well, the way I usually teach it is it's like a lightning bolt. You can think of it that way. But there's also an L right here. Right? So that's another way of thinking about it. So the lamed, it's the longest letter. It's, lots of different ways of thinking about it. So line 1. So let's read it together. La, la, lo, lo, lay, lay, li, li. Line 2. Le, la, la, lo, lay, li, la, la, lay, li. Is this all making sense?
Yeah.
Good? All right. Line 3. A, li, a, li, L, a, li. Sorry. So, there are many, 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 many names for God in Jewish tradition. El is short for Elohim or Elohei. El is the name of an ancient Canaanite god that the Jews, the Israelites, sort of convert, basically. And God becomes Elohim. Okay? So Eli, many people who are familiar with Jewish liturgy will know Eli, Eli, it means my God, and it's the beginning of a poem that was actually written by a woman named Hannah Senesh, who was a parachuter during World War II, who parachuted behind enemy lines, fighting for the Jewish army, basically. It was no official Israeli army during World War II, but she was part of the Jewish brigade, the British Jewish brigade of Britain. And she wrote this poem while she was behind enemy lines. She was killed during World War II, but this song goes, Eli, Eli, da 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 da. So it's a poem. Anyway, many times people hear the words Eli, they think of that poem. Okay? So Eli just literally means my God. Okay? Eli.
But it's, I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Like in line 3, Eli, is that two different words, or because they're not together?
They're just you doing it for practice.
Oh, okay.
So it's just Eli, but really the word is Eli.
Okay.
So that the last one at the end would be the proper word.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, line 4. Together. Ba hamore el avi. Line 5. Lama ba mori. Line 6, I'm going to read and you repeat back to me. Line 6. Lama ba hamore el avi. Line 7. Harabi lomed. Hadod lomed. Hadoda lamda. Okay, so that gets back to that question about where the syllable ends and begins. Those two dots, those two vertical dots, generally in this case are going to identify a spot where the syllable ends. Sometimes you'll see 2 of those vowels in a row, which necessarily means one's going to end and one's going to begin. But none of that, you need to focus on that right now. Okay. Does everyone feel like they understand the lamed?
Yeah.
L sound? Okay. All right, so let's keep on going. All right. This is super important. One of the most common sets of letters that people mistake. One for the other. Line 2, the last 2 letters on the line. Okay? Line 2 in the Hebrew chart. Hebrew letter chart. I'm sorry. Sorry. Line 2 in the Hebrew letter chart. You can see there at the end on the far left side, the last 2 letters, there's a gimel and then there's a nun.
You have to know them to play.
And this is, what's that? Oh yeah, to play dreidel. You gotta know them in order to be able to play dreidel. Because they're the two of the 4 letters on the dreidel. And if you don't know a gimel from a nun, then you don't know if you don't do nothing or if you want. So that could be a problem, right? So, the really important piece to focus on is that gap at the bottom. The gap at the bottom makes it a gimel, making a g sound. And the nun, you could call it nice and neat. Clean, straight lines, right? Nice and neat. Okay? So let's focus on that. So the gimel, and more than likely, I mean, the theory is that the gimel is actually, the Hebrew word for camel is gamal. So more than likely, the gimel came from the Hebrew word for a camel, and that's supposed to be like a camel's leg or something. All right. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, so line 1, let's read it together. Line 1 on page 22. Ga, ga, good, gay, 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 gee, gee, go, go. I want to make sure that everybody understands those last 2, especially. You have the gimel with the vav with the dot above it, makes an O sound, together go, and the gimel without the vav, but with the dot, gives you go. Does everyone understand that? Okay. Line 2. Go. Go. Gay. Ga. Ga. Dol. Gi. Bor. Gum. Okay. I want to look through line 2 on your own and tell me if you have any questions, or what questions do you have about any of those on line 2. Talia, you're good? Okay. Good? All right, line 3. Ha, ga, do. Ha, gi, bor. Ge, do, la. Ge, do, lim. Right. So gadol means great or good. I mean great or big. Okay. So line 4. Repeat after me, please. Mi gadol.
Mi gadol.
Abba gadol.
Abba gadol.
Gam ha'em.
Gam ha'em.
Gedola.
Gedola.
Hadod. Together. Hadod. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the line. Line 6. Good for you. You know that I was in the wrong place. Excellent. Line 6. Hamore gadol.
Hamore gadol.
Gam ha'em gedola.
Gam ha'em gedola.
Hadod me'ir gadol.
Hadod me'ir gadol.
Okay, line 8. Gam hadoda.
Gam hadoda.
Leah gedola.
Leah gedola.
Okay, line 9. Mi gadol.
Mi gadol.
Abba gadol.
Abba gadol.
Gam hadod gadol. Okay. Line 10. Mi gedola. Ha'em gedola. Gam hadoda gedola. Okay. Any questions on this one? Yeah. Walker.
So when the lamed is in like a full word, it would make like a long sound, not like a l sound, or
It depends on what vowels underneath it. Right? So it's always going to make a l sound, right? Just think of it like an L, right? An L makes a l sound. But if you have the word late, you're going to read it like that. If you have the word look, it's still a l sound, right? So in this case, so we had the word gadol, okay? So the l is at the end. It's just a consonant sound, right? Gadol. Or you could have this word. So this is a little bit confusing, but this is the word lila. So you have the L sound at the beginning of the word, or you have it repeated actually, right? And when you have an ah sound followed by a yud, so earlier, I said when you have an E sound followed by a yud, still E. When you have an A sound followed by a yud, it's still A. But when you have an ah sound followed by a yud, it becomes I. An I sound. So, but we're not learning that right now, so just ignore me. But did I answer your question? Yeah? Okay. All right, moving on. Coming back to what I talked about before. Really important. This concept is super important. The letter Vav is the sixth letter of the alphabet. Okay? The letter Vav on its own makes what sound? V. Makes a V sound. But it operates as a vowel very often. If it has a dot above it, it makes what sound? O. If it has a dot in the middle of it, ooh, ooh, right, like hitting the stomach, ooh, okay? So there's another way that the vowel, that in Hebrew, the ooh sound is made, and that is 3 diagonal dots underneath a letter. So if you have a bet, then that would be boo, right? If you had a lamed, that would be lu. If you had a mem, that would be moo. Exactly. Okay. So that's the ooh sound. Yeah. All right. So line 1. Boo. Boo. Vo. Voo. Go. Goo. Do. 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 Right, exactly. Okay. Yeah. That usually gets a smile if, with the kids anyway. I can see a smile right there. There you go. All right, line 2. Ho. Do. Together. Repeat after me. Ho. Do. Lo. Le. Om. Okay, now let's break that apart. How does le'om, somebody explain to me, how does that become le'om?
You got the 2 dots underneath.
Right.
And an aleph, which doesn't say anything.
Right, so the first syllable, you just have what?
Look.
L. That's all it is. L. There could have no 2 dots or 2 dots, which there is. And then you have the next word, next part of the word, syllable, right? The aleph makes one sound.
You got an O.
Right. Well, the aleph on its own makes no sound, right? But then you have the dot there, right? Makes an O sound. All right, le-om. Okay. oo,
Let oo.
meme, dove, do beam. Okay, line 3. Rove, meru, beam, olam, oo, lam, ho, d, oo. Okay, is your head swimming a little bit?
Can we do the second word?
You better believe we can. Wait, the second word in line 2?
Line 3.
Okay. So Zach, tell me what you think it is.
It's like, is it, I'm confused about how to take the M, because of the 2 dots.
Pretend there's no 2 dots there.
Is it just root?
M. Yeah, it's not right? It's more of like on top of the consonant. So
Gotcha.
ru.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's probably similar to what you're thinking it is.
Yeah, I
Right?
wasn't sure, like,
It-
if it
yeah.
was, kind of like the B is, so I was getting stuck.
Yeah, it's think about especially like when I ask kids like, what sound does a mem make? What I want them to say is m. Oftentimes they'll say right? Which is technically correct, but it doesn't help you when you're learning to read. So when I say, what I mean is I want to be on top of the letter and not behind the letter. So m puts the m at the beginning, at the front end, whereas puts like an e.
Like a fine.
If you had to write out right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Were you saying like a final? Would you say like a final?
M.
Right. So if you had the word rum, right then you're
Yes.
right then because that's how the mem operates at the end of the word, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, line 4. Me, who?
Me,
Me, he.
he,
Me, who?
me, who,
Me, he.
me, he,
Which just that means who is he and who is her. Or who is she, rather. Who, Abba. He, Ima.
he, ima,
Me, who? Line 6. Me, who?
me, who,
Me, who?
me, who,
Who, ha, Rabbi.
who, Rabbi,
Who, ha, Moreh.
who, Amoreh.
Okay. Questions?
And the who means what?
He.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't that obvious? Of course. Who is he, and he is she, and me is who, and dog is fish. Right? We're clear? Okay, good. Just wanna make sure we're good. Okay, so here I was doing a little math before with a 1 and a 0, and I'm going to repeat myself. So, this next lesson, and I promise you, you're going to take my word for it, I promise you that there is grammatical reasoning behind why this is the case. I cannot explain it to you at this point, but you're going to have to just trust me. The 2 dots, vertical, they don't really add anything. They're grammatical, just not something you have to worry about, as I say. But what you're learning here is, they call these short vowels. I don't even want you to worry about them at all. All you need to know is that when you have 2 dots next to an ah, or 2 dots next to an eh, or 2 dots next to another ah, it's just ah, and eh. The 2 dots side by vertical dots, they don't add anything. So whenever you see those 4 or 5 dots, whatever that looks like, it's beginning to look like, I don't know, like ink blots or whatever. Ignore the 2 dots. It's as long as you know that the 3 dots make eh, the T-shaped vowel makes ah, and the other vowel makes ah. Okay? I put the two dots on the wrong side, but you can ignore that. All right, line 1, let's read them together. Ah, ha, ah, ah, ha, ah, he. Line 2. Avi. Yeah, repeat after me. Avi. Hadar. Ali. Hali. Ahmad. Elil. Elil. Okay. Questions? Clarifications? Anybody need me to clarify anything about this? Anybody? Okay. Line 3. Ma'ariv. Aravim. Hale. Edom. He'evid. Avadim. Sorry. Right. So this is, in line 4 you see El. That's what I was talking about before. El, shortened version of God's name. Or Elohim. Right? So El, Elohim. So now we're getting into verses from prayers. So line 5. Elohim. Borei Ha'olam. Line 6. Hu Elohei Ha'amim. Line 7. Elohim. Borei Ha'adam. Line 8. Hu Eli. Hu Vor'i. Line 9. Elohim. Vorei Ha'or. Hu Elohei Olam.
Excuse me, what line?
Yes. We're line 11 now.
Okay, thank you.
Me Olam Ad Olam. Line 12. Avraham Eved Elohim. Line 13. Hu Elohei Avraham. Line 14. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor. Hodu Lo. Okay. So that's a lot. Anybody have any questions now? Yeah.
We're gonna leave, I just want to let you know. We're
Okay.
gonna leave early tonight,
Okay.
and I didn't have a chance to tell you.
No problem.
Is that okay?
No. Of course it is. All right. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Because I can stop here and say, yeah. Kill. 13? 14. Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor. What do you have a question about?
I guess at the end,
Yeah.
the second word, I don't see how we got that sound at the end.
At the end of the second word in line 14?
Yes,
Hagadol.
okay.
So,
Look at there.
so
School.
we have
That was at the end.
Oh, Oh, thank you. I hear it now. I didn't hear it originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So d-o-l.
I didn't hear the whole.
Oh, okay,
Okay, thank
okay.
you.
Yeah. Others? Okay, let's go on. We have a couple more to learn tonight. Okay. So this is the last letter of the alphabet. And sometimes it has a dot, and sometimes it doesn't. But for our purposes, it only makes a t sound. T. So let's just read that, okay? And you some people think about it like this is like a toe, right? One way of thinking about it, remembering it, okay? All right. Line 1. Ta, ta, ti, ta, to, te. Yes. Did I?
Yeah.
Oops. Let's do it again. Okay, you know why? Because I wasn't using my finger. Line 1. Ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, to, te. Good? Line 2. To, tu, ti, tu, to, ti, te. Line 3. To, da, do, di, to, da, do, da. Line 4. Tal, mood. To, ra. Tal, mi, di. Line 5. Meir, lomaid, Torah. Line 6. Meir, Talmid, who, lomaid, Torah. Line 7. Devora, Talmidah. He, Lamda, Torah. Line 8. Meir, Lomaid, Torah. Bat Talmud, Torah. Everyone see that second to last word? Ba Talmud. Together. Ba Talmud. Torah. Line 9. Gam Devora. Lamda. Torah. Bat Talmud. Torah. Okay. How is this feeling? Is it flowing? Yes, Leslie.
Okay, so I've always been confused, and this makes me more confused. Is it Torah or Torah?
Depends on who's saying it.
Is there a correct way to say it?
I mean, if you're learning it in the Sephardic tradition, which is really modern Hebrew, the way modern Hebrew is spoken, then it would be Torah.
Okay.
But if you go to Chabad, not only are they going to say Torah, they're going to say Torah, right? So it's all rules are like because what Ashkenazi impact on Hebrew takes the Yiddishization of Hebrew. Basically, it puts the accent on the front syllable.
But
Like-
what is that front syllable? Is it
To.
T-O or T-O-R?
Oh, it would be toe.
To. So it's not Torah.
No, which gets back into what I was talking about before, about how you know where the beginning of a syllable where the end, where a syllable ends and another one begins,
Yeah,
right? So you really wouldn't say Torah.
but people do.
Yeah, but well, yeah, we don't find them. I mean, but,
I mean, but you hear that all the
but
time.
yeah, Torah. Well, but people say, well, no, if they're not, generally people don't say Torah. What they'll say is Torah.
But I hear it. When
You
I
hear
it,
it.
I hear it. Torah.
Torah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah.
It's a little bit different of a sound. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, it would be, the dividing line would be that in front of the resh. So Torah. Other questions? Anybody? Okay. The tav, as I said to you, makes the same sound whether it's gotten it or not. Turn to page 27, because we're going to go over we're going to go over the shin and sin, and then we're going to call it a night. And I know this is a lot, and I would rather you have less to focus on, and you have that opportunity to work on. So yes,
I
that.
just have one side question.
Yeah.
From the prior line, is Ba Talmud, is that like the Talmud?
It could be, but Talmud Torah is the study of Torah. But the word Talmud is also the name of the compendium of Jewish law, and which is called the Talmud, right? So you know what? Actually, maybe I'll save this last one. One of the things that I want you all to really hear about is the way Hebrew works in terms of its roots. So in Hebrew, imagine you got a tree, you got roots, tree, right, and you got the leaves, the boughs, all that. But the branches, even if it's a palm, a date, an apple tree, whatever, every tree's branches are unique, right? The roots are generally the same. The trunk is, what holds it up is pretty similar, but the branches can look different. I'm not to extend the metaphor too far, but it's called in Hebrew, the roots are called a shoresh. And it's actually the word that's also for roots, like the roots of a plant is it's shoresh. Okay. So one of the most common ones that people are familiar with is Kuf Daled Shin, which we usually read as Kadosh. Okay, Kadosh is generally translated to mean holy. Okay, and we have lots of words that come from that root. The Kiddush is the prayer we say over the wine. The Kaddish is the prayer we say when we're remembering people who have passed away. It's also a transitionary prayer. If you're at a synagogue on Shabbat morning, people will pray Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. They'll get up on their toes and they'll say, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." And it's a quote straight from the book of Isaiah. Kiddushin is the name of the Jewish wedding ceremony. But all of them have this, and I use a square root sign. All of them have that 3-letter. Most every Hebrew word has 3-letter root. Not everyone, but most have a 3-letter word. So, Zach, you were asking about the word Talmud. The root of that word is Lamed Mem Dalet. So the Tav in front of it is one of the indicators that it's a noun. Okay, so this word, the 3 letters, you could have Talmud. You can hear the letters in there, right? You could have the word Lomed, right? Everyone can hear the la, ma, da in there. Lomed. A boy, lomed. A girl, lomedet. Okay? If you have studies, somebody might ask you, what are your studies? They would be your limudim. Limudim. Okay? Talmud Torah is the study of Torah. Okay? So this is how Hebrew works. Many of the words have many of the similar words have a shared root. And so, like you could have the word shin, lamed, mem. Right? Shin, lamed, mem are the root letters of shalom. Right? Peace. Right? But if you add a few letters, that's the word shlemut, which means wholeness. Because the root meaning of the word shalom, shin lamed mem, is whole. Right? W-H-O-L-E. Right? So this is really, when you get to know Hebrew, one of the cool things is you can get to know the roots. And then you have a sense of what this word might mean. You may not know exactly, but if you know that a shin lamed mem has to do with wholeness, it gives you a whole different understanding of the word that shares those roots. Now, it's not those three letters in any particular order. It is those letters in a particular order. You can't, it's not like mem lamed shin or lamed shin mem. It has to be in that order that gives you that root. Okay, so Hebrew, and what's fascinating to me about Hebrew is that there's only one source for the language of Hebrew. Right? There's no grammar book that was handed at Sinai. Right? There was no revelation. Like, God's not a grammarian. It says, here's the grammar book. Right? All we have is the Torah. Right? The Torah, a book with 80,000 words, and that is the book from which, over the course of time, of study, our ancestors came to understand what the words meant. And one of the big challenges, but exciting parts about Hebrew in the Torah, I think I said this last week. So that's the first word of the Torah, which we read generally as Bereshit. But that's an interpretation, because there's no vowels in the Torah. There's no dot inside of the vet, right? The rules that we understand is that if there's that letter at the beginning of the word, it has to have a dot in it, right? But any word we are reading in a particular way in the Torah is in and of itself an interpretation. Because, it's passed down to the generations, right? But there are arguments about what a particular word the way it's supposed to be vocalized. Yeah, Walker.
So, for, say you're, reading, the Torah, there wouldn't be any vowels in it, at all?
So when you're studying, I know you're thinking about it, when you're studying to become a bat mitzvah, you're going to have a text from the Torah that has all the vowels. And that's what you're going to practice from. But eventually, you're going to have a text, and that's going to be, one side of it's going to be all of them with the vowels. And then the same text right next to it without the vowels. Because eventually, when you're chanting or reading from the Torah, you're reading from a text that does not have any vowels. So that's where the practice comes in, right? Yeah.
Question. So, if you take the Hebrew Bible,
Yeah.
and then it was translated
Yeah.
to, let's say, the Old Testament King James Version, blah, blah, blah. Is there any beef with that translation?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, lots of beef. I'll give you one that is one of my favorites. I don't remember what the word is. Shoot. Tangent, disagreement, whatever. Yeah.
I've read that King James scholars were not really great linguists.
Yeah, I can't speak for them. I don't know, but I know that what we've inherited as the King James version is akin to the way we understand it, but one of the things that's so important about understanding Torah study for Jews is that we don't ever study it simply from the text. We're always studying it through the lens of other interpreters, right? So, it's funny, people Bible study. We don't do Bible study, really. We do Torah study, but it's rare where you just get a text of the Torah. The question isn't just, here's the text, what do you think? It's here's what this guy said in the 11th century. Here's what this person said in the 13th century. Here's how this person was arguing in the 15th century with the guy in the 11th century. And so it's this constant conversation about what this text actually means. Zach?
Oh, I was just gonna comment. It sounds like there's enough internal disagreement about what is the appropriate interpretation that when you export it to another, it's going to be exacerbated, right? Like, if the Jews haven't agreed wholesale as to what it means, so anybody translating it would also not have a perfect
That's why they
translation.
say that if there are two Jews
Right.
in one room, there are at least three opinions.
Right, exactly, right. Because it's the process of debate and discussion and understanding, that it's a. Okay, I'll end with this. There's a book called the Zohar, which you may have heard of. The Zohar is is sort of the mystical interpretation of the Hebrew Bible. It's the book that the Kabbalists study. Okay, so it's an extended, very animated interpretation of the Hebrew text. And one of the writings in the Zohar, the writer writes, don't ever say that the Torah is a book like any other book. If it were like any other book, I could write it better. Like, he has the chutzpah to say, I could write a better book. Because it's not actually meant to be a book like any other book. But rather, it's meant to be a layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of the process of seeking meaning, of interpreting the text, etc. And what he then says is that the letters themselves, they're just garments. They're clothing of the primordial, original Torah, which we can't know because it's just light. It's God's wisdom. It's God's light. In order for us to be able to engage with the text, God had to put it into a context that made it approachable. Right? What's that? Accessible, exactly. But don't imagine that you're looking at this olive and you're like, oh yeah, I get it, I fully understand what that olive means. Right? Because the rabbis are continuing, the interpretive tradition is continually digging in and pulling back the layers and pulling back the layers and pulling back the layers.
So it sounds like at some point, scholars had to conclude that the silent letters were indeed silent letters. It's like they were given, just
right.
Fascinating.
Right. They had to. Right. There was an agreement. At some point, the biggest time period was about the 10th century, when you had the tradition that basically established here's the agreed upon vocalized text. But if you look at certain books, it'll actually point out the areas where they couldn't agree. Right, and it'll call that Kri Ketiv. This is what's written, but this is how we say it. And, because remember, it wasn't like there was an original version. It wasn't like a CD-ROM that was, given, right? It was passed down through the generations. So eventually there was an agreed upon text and vocalized text. And that's the key part. By vocal, I mean like with the vowels, right?
So this is
Yeah.
really nudgy.
No, Joey.
Okay, so I have a friend from high school who is a minister in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I sent you she did a sermon on Shema. And I think I popped it over to you once.
On
but
Shema, okay.
Yeah, but I don't know that you, I did
It
expect
sounds a little
you-
familiar. Okay.
Yes, and it was really quite thoughtful. So she did it on the Shema and via Hafta. And then she said in the middle, I thought this is going to drive Rabbi Scott crazy if he listens to this, but the whole thing was really kind of interesting from her perspective.
Right.
And she said something like, and then we Christians made it better. And I'm like, oh no, Katie, don't go there. And said, and we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves.
Right.
So somewhere, I guess that was dropped and got moved into the New Testament or something. But so I think there's an illustration of translation.
Well, right. So what Christianity did, there were 613 commandments, right? In Jewish tradition, there's a gigantic number of commandments. At some point down the road of the development of Christianity, somewhere in the Christian Bible, Jesus says there's really only 2 commandments you have to worry about, right? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and might, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself, right? Those are the only 2. All the rest is unimportant, right? That's what you're referring to, is that basically they took it from the big all these down to 1. Now, I was just about to tell the story, but I'll add to the story. I think I might have, is it a recording or was it
It's on YouTube.
Okay,
I
I think I remember.
Sermon starts like in the middle.
Yeah,
It says, don't
yeah,
do the first part.
yeah.
And she's kind of quirky. She's just the same
Yeah.
person she was in high school.
Right.
But it was a really thoughtful
Yeah.
presentation. And I watched it a couple of times.
I mean, if the worst you can say is that the teaching is you should love God and you should love your neighbor, it's not so terrible, right?
I know. It was the part where she said we improved.
We made it better. Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Okay. All right. For some people they did. It's like, oh, all right already. Like, there's too many mitzvot. Let's narrow it down. So there's a great interpretation that the rabbis bequeath to us. They talk about they're talking about the 10 Commandments, and they talk about how there were the 613, but really all that matters is, and they eventually get down to the 10 Commandments, right? But then they say, right, there's the tablets, right? Right? And they say, well, actually, it's not 10 Commandments, it's just 5. Because they weren't given like this, but rather they were given back to back, floating, and the letters held the tablets up, and 1 related to 5, and 2 to 6, and 3 to 7, and so forth. So it was really 5, right? And another rabbi says, it's actually 2, because the Torah intimates that the Israelites only heard the first 2, right? I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and you shall have no other gods before me, right? So it's actually only those 2. And then another rabbi's like, it's just 1. It was really just, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God, right? And that begins with the word Anochi. Anochi is like the royal version of I. So Ani is I, or Anochi is like the godly I, right? And so he said, no, it was really just Anochi. That's all God said. Right? Anochi, I. And then they literally go down to, no, it was just an aleph. It was that first letter. Right? It was just that first letter. And then some other rabbi says, no. It was the sound of an aleph, which of course is odd, because the aleph doesn't make any sound. No. The sound of an aleph is the sound of the voice, the vocal cords, just before they articulate anything. Okay? And it's like this competition.